A broken arm hidden from view, but this millionaire made an incredible move to change everything. Jack Thompson stood behind the counter of the diner, masked by an unyielding smile. The fire of a once promising orthopedic career flickered like an unwatched flame, nearly extinguished by a car accident that shattered more than just his arm. He felt that fracture in his bones deep within his spirit, each crack echoing the lost surgeries and lives he could have saved. The aroma of bacon wafted through the air, mingling with the scent of coffee, as loyal customers trickled in, unaware of the storm brewing within him. For the townsfolk, the diner provided warmth, laughter, and comfort food, a far cry from the bitter chill of foreclosure ominously looming over Jack's head. He poured coffee for the elderly couple at table 3, their hands shook slightly as they reminisced about their youth. Jack savored those moments, yet each filled him with a painful awareness life moved on, while he felt stuck in a loop, trapped in a never-ending routine of breakfast specials and late-night shifts. He longed for purpose beyond these walls, but step after step, his past slipped further away. Then the artists arrived, bringing splashes of color and the sweet vibration of creativity that danced in the air. They painted vibrant murals on the diner's drab walls, infusing energy into the stale space. Drawing inspiration from them, Jack began to wrap his mind around an idea: health workshops for the community. Share knowledge, spark discussions, reignite his sense of purpose. But just as he began to feel that flicker of hope ignite within him, the looming shadow was cast by an encroaching billionaire, a sharp suit and smoother smile pushing into his life with ambitions to replace the diner with a flashy franchise. Jack's heart raced as he considered the implications of such loss, not just of the diner, but of everything his family had built. His mind churned with questions: would he fight to protect their legacy? Could he reclaim his identity amid this growing threat? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's anger solidified into determination. With every set of eyes that turned to his diner, he felt the weight of expectation pushing him forward. Could he expose the unsavory tactics of the rival who wanted to snuff out his family's legacy? Thoughts raced. Could he confront this polished tycoon, revealing the hidden medical practice his grandfather once ran, a practice that served the town with respect and care, just like the diner had done all these years? As tension thickened around him, Jack stood there, poised on the precipice of a decision. Would he risk everything to fight for his family and his future? Heart pounding in a desperate rhythm, he glanced at the colorful murals depicting strength and resilience. They reminded him that hope was never truly lost. Just then, the door swung open with a burst, a gust of wind carrying promises of change and a figure that would tip the scales of Jack's fragile balance, pulling him further into a battle he never asked for. Jack's pulse quickened as he turned to face the newcomer. The tall, confident figure strode across the diner with an air of authority, commanding the attention of everyone present. A woman dressed in a tailored suit, her sharp features softened only by an inviting smile, scanned the diner's interior as if assessing its value. Jack felt an inexplicable tension coiling within him, a bitter mix of defiance and fear. "Mr. Thompson, I presume?" she inquired, her voice smooth yet assertive, tinged with a hint of amusement. Jack's heart sank, recognizing the undeniable challenge that now stood before him. "Yes, that's me," he replied, unsure of the words he could muster under pressure. He clenched the coffee pot tighter as if it were a lifeline in the rising tide of uncertainty. "I'm Rebecca Stokes, the new owner of Trinity Development. I've got plans for this place," she stated, her tone friendly but filled with unspoken implications. Jack knew she was not there for small talk. Reeling mentally, he envisioned the well-lit vision Rebecca had for the diner: modern, upscale, devoid of its gritty charm. All the history, the memories, would be bulldozed into the ground. The diner wasn't just a building to him, it was the essence of what remained of his family's legacy and a part of his identity. What kind of plans are we talking about? Jack asked, forcing his voice steady despite the tumult of emotions swirling within. I'd like to convert this old diner into a high-end bistro, she said, gliding over to the picturesque window where sunlight poured in like golden syrup, unapologetic about the intrusion. And of course, we're looking to enhance the neighborhood. The best way to do that is to replace the old with something new. He swallowed hard, searching for the right response. This diner, my family built it to serve people, to create a place of comfort. You can't just take that away. She tilted her head, her expression shifting from amusement to intrigue. You seem passionate about this place. Why not turn that passion into something larger? A place that could draw in more customers, more affluent clientele. Jack's mind whirled at the prospect. The idea of revising the diner's identity sparked a flicker of interest. But it still felt like such a betrayal. What did that imply for setting aside his principles, for what his grandfather had stood for the community they had always served? Your plans sound more like a ploy to raise profits than to keep the heart of this diner alive, Jack countered, surprised by his boldness. Rebecca raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by his confrontation. That's a risky stance, Jack, she warned, her voice lowering, becoming almost conspiratorial. People in power seldom take kindly to resistance. Jack needed a plan. Wrestling with looming fears and the weight of his grandfather's legacy, he began to draw upon the remnants of his medical training. He could risk everything, but he had to emerge smarter than the game he was being drawn into. As he weighed the consequences, attack or defend, negotiate or go down swinging, an unexpected idea edged its way to the forefront of his mind. Instead of running from this threat, what if he turned it into an opportunity? What if he embraced change, yet stayed true to the diner's roots? The bell above the door jingled again, this time bringing in more customers, their laughter diffusing the tension in the air. It served as a reminder of what truly mattered, the community, the connections, the shared meals that could hardly be replicated in a sterile new environment. But one question persisted, gnawing at him amidst the chaos: how could he navigate this impending confrontation without losing everything he valued? Let me think about it, he finally said to Rebecca, disappointed in himself for not making a stronger stand. But beneath the veneer of indecision roiled a burgeoning plan. Jack knew he must devise a counter-strategy, a way to confront and potentially exploit the looming development. The stakes had never been higher. The time had come to face not just a rival, but to confront his own fears and doubts. Jack Thompson was at the brink, and the battle for the diner, and his future, was only just beginning. Jack sat in the corner booth, the familiar smell of brewed coffee and sizzling bacon wafting through the diner, yet he felt further from home than ever. Outside, a soft wind rustled the trees, but inside, his mind was a tempest. Turning towards the bustling kitchen, he listened to the clattering pans and laughing employees, a bittersweet reminder of what he stood to lose. He glanced at Rebecca, who had positioned herself by the register, discussing plans with his loyal staff as if she were already the queen of this realm. His stomach tightened. Did these people understand the stakes? He was not just fighting for the diner's brick and mortar, he was fighting for the legacy of those who had poured their souls into this place. Yet the more he absorbed Rebecca's assertive aura, the more his confidence wavered. Her polished words echoed in his mind, urging him to see the light of modernity over the shadows of tradition. Jack took a deep breath. Instead of contemplating defeat, he began to strategize. It was time to reclaim his narrative. What if he reached out to the neighborhood, directly engaging his community? This diner was an institution. It was time he galvanized his loyal customers to rise to the occasion. The thought set off a cascade of ideas. He envisioned a promotional event to celebrate the diner's history, a blend of nostalgia and the new classic diner fare, but served with a twist that might attract a broader audience. It could be a showcase of local talent, a gathering to honor the past while simultaneously inviting the future. People would come not just for the food but for the stories that shaped them, binding them to the diner and each other. What if he reclaimed the narrative in a different way? The old diner could evolve without losing its core essence. If he could get through to the regulars, to the very community that had been built around this establishment, perhaps they could all collectively voice their opinions about the impending change. Rebecca thought she held all the cards, but did she understand the power of a united community? With a sudden surge of resolve, Jack pulled out a notepad and scribbled ideas furiously: community night, local cook-off, storytelling evenings. Each suggestion ignited a flicker of excitement within him, a countermeasure against Rebecca's looming takeover. Jack, a voice pulled him from his thoughts. It was Mia, one of his longest-serving waitresses, her concern evident. "You seem distant. Everything okay?" "I just need to think," he replied, pushing the notepad away, suddenly conscious of the urgency burgeoning in his mind. "Jack," she persisted. "Are we in trouble? With the new owners?" He met her gaze, seeing genuine worry mirrored in her eyes. This moment of vulnerability pressed against his resolve, awakening a sense of purpose. "We're going to fight for this place, and I need everyone on board." Mia smiled, her eyes lighting up as she realized Jack's determination had shifted gears. "I'm with you. Let us start planning a meeting, bring in everyone. If we're going to do this, let us make it big." The words flowed, igniting a new focus within him. He could no longer afford to dwell on fears but rather take charge of how the diner would transform. As the adrenaline coursed through his veins, Jack sensed a whisper of hope blossoming, urging him to push against the tidal wave of uncertainty. He glanced back at Rebecca, observing her control over the environment, and for the first time, he felt that perhaps their opposing forces might create something unexpected and powerful. Back in the booth, he began drafting strategies while fending off the doubts threatening to creep in. How would they craft their message to not just the loyal supporters but also to newcomers? Could they attract investors who understood the value of keeping community roots intact? Each passing minute felt like fire sharpening his resolve as he crafted his battle plan in earnest. Just when he thought he might actually have a handle on things, a new wave of dread washed over him. What if Rebecca had anticipated this? What if she was 2 steps ahead? There was still so much to uncover about her intentions, and Jack felt the fight was far from over. A frantic jingle of the doorbell echoed throughout the restaurant. As Jack turned, a man clad in a business suit, probably in his mid-40s with a briefcase in hand, stepped inside. He scanned the diner, and upon locking eyes with Jack, pointed a finger at him, striding forward with purposeful determination. "Jack Thompson." The man barked. Jack's heart raced, and he braced himself for whatever this new confrontation would unravel. What did this encounter mean for his ambitions? Had he become far too embroiled in the fight, inviting more eyes onto him than he anticipated? The stakes were escalating, and Jack knew his next move was crucial. Jack's instincts told him to brace for impact, the suit-clad man radiating a demanding energy that weighed heavy in the air. He instinctively stood up from the booth, grappling with the unwanted anticipation knotting his stomach. "Yes, that's me," Jack replied, forcing authority into his voice despite his trembling hands. The man approached, his gaze unyielding, scrutinizing Jack as though gauging his worth. "John Turner, I'm representing an investment group that's interested in your diner," the man announced, extending a hand. "We've been watching the recent developments, your struggle against the new ownership, and frankly, I think you've got potential." A flicker of something hope, disbelief, perhaps even skepticism passed through Jack. Here was someone who believed in his vision, yet the implication of accepting help sat heavily on him. What strings would come attached? Was this a lifeline or merely a barter in his fight? Images of Rebecca's pristine confidence bubbled up within him, taunting his insecurities. "You understand that I'm fighting to maintain the diner's legacy, right?" Jack pressed, searching Turner's eyes for sincerity. "I want to just hand over control." Turner nodded, adjusting his suit jacket. "I would expect nothing less. But hear me out. We don't want to strip the diner of its soul. We're talking business updates, a bit of modernization, think expanded menu options, streamlined operations. You'd still have the final say." Jack leaned back, weighing his options like stones on a scale. The offer opened a door, but which door would it be? He took a deep breath, trying to suppress the rising tide of caution. "And what's in it for you?" Turner shrugged, the corners of his mouth twitching in a slight smile. "Your diner has been generating interest. We view it as a cornerstone in this community. If we can market it effectively, it will thrive, and so will we." The man's casual tone contrasted sharply with Jack's heightened anxiety. Jack felt his guard waver momentarily, but then he locked his eyes onto Turner's with an intensity fueled by the weight of his legacy. "What makes you think I'll trust you?" "Consider me an ally, Jack." Turner stepped closer, his energy sharpening. "Your passion is your biggest asset, but you also need resources. I see that drive in you in that booth you've always inhabited." Jack glanced over his shoulder, taking in the familiar surroundings, the worn leather seats where regulars laughed, the antique jukebox softening the ambience. It felt like home, but the reality of change loomed like an ominous cloud overhead. Could he really let someone else in, even if their intentions seemed noble? "This isn't just a business transaction for me," he finally said, testing his own emotions. "It's personal." "I get that." Turner stepped back, gauging his response. "But don't let pride blind you to what's possible. What if this partnership allows you to expand on your ideas? You could maintain your influence while building something even greater." Jack mulled over the possibilities swirling in his mind. It wasn't just about holding tight to the familiarity, it was about progress, evolution. If he could gather the right resources, he could protect what mattered most while navigating the turbulent waters of change. "Let me think about it," he stated, firm yet uncertain. "Time is a luxury you might not have," Turner cautioned, his smile fading slightly. "The clock is ticking, Jack. The decisions you make in the next few days are critical not only for you but for everyone connected to this diner." Jack's heart sank. The ticking clock echoed in his thoughts, pressing against the effectiveness of his ambitions. He needed to act, but what direction did he want to take? As Turner stepped away, leaving behind the tantalizing opportunity wedged against the inertia of his fierce love for tradition, Jack felt a weight settle firmly on his shoulders. What if he underestimated the power of modernization for fear of losing the diner's essence? He had to decide whether he would surrender parts of his fight or double down and harness the strength. He had fought so hard to cultivate that as the door swung shut behind Turner, Jack felt a shift within himself, a gust of uncertainty mixed with an undeniable urge to refashion the narrative. His next steps would demand boldness, a divergence from his safety net. But would it be enough? Would he find the courage needed to break free from the confines of tradition? Each passing moment held a mixture of promise and dread, but he had to prepare for a storm brewing on the horizon. A shadow flickered across the diner windows. Rebecca approached with an enigmatic smile. Jack could almost hear the clash of their impending confrontation reverberating in the air. The test of his resolve loomed ever closer. "Jack, we need to talk about the future of this place." The finality in her voice echoed in his mind. The moment of truth was approaching. Jack could feel it in his bones. Could he rise to the challenge, or would he falter in the face of the inevitable? Jack's pulse quickened as Rebecca approached, the air thickening with the weight of her words. He pushed down the trepidation curling in his stomach. This wasn't the same Rebecca from months ago, the one sharing idle chatter over shifting shifts and diners' favorite orders. No, this was a woman whose ambitions had crystallized into hard lines and demanding questions. "Are you ready for a real conversation, Jack?" she asked, her voice sharpening as she slid into the booth across from him. It wasn't a question, but an invitation laced with urgency. "I just had an interesting encounter," he offered, watching her reaction like a hawk. Transparency had always been his chosen path, but today felt different. He needed to guard his thoughts. "Interesting how?" she pressed, her gaze piercing through the remnants of his wall. Jack took a deep breath. "An investment offer from John Turner. They see potential in the diner, want to help modernize it, keep the soul intact." He couldn't ignore the slight tremor in his voice, as secrets had a funny way of being both liberating and constricting. Rebecca leaned in, her expression transforming as realization dawned. So, you're considering letting in outside influence? You're naive to think they only want what's best for the diner. He felt a pulse of defensiveness. They believe in what we're doing here, Rebecca. They see the value in community, in the diner's legacy. It's not just about the money. What was he doing? Out of habit, he began to justify to her, to himself, his emerging resolve. Her smile was tinged with disbelief. It's always about the money. Trust me, I've seen it too many times. Once you let someone else lay claim to your creation, it twists into something unrecognizable. The hurt in her voice reflected the scars of lost battles. Jack's fight against the tide of fear ignited a smoldering anger within him. What do you want me to do? Refuse any help that comes my way? Hold on to pride until there's nothing left to fight for? The words hung like heavy stones between them, stirring a flicker in Rebecca's eyes. She sighed, the softness returning as she searched his face. You know yourself, Jack. You've always known how to challenge the way things are. But do you know how to navigate these waters? He sank deeper into consideration, the room spinning with implications. The diner had always symbolized a piece of who he was, neglecting the newbie business strategies she had alluded to. Modernization didn't have to mean sacrificing authenticity. But what drove him to hold fast? What if I moved forward, Rebecca? What if collaborating could allow me to steer the ship while keeping the heart of this diner alive? The question was raw, fumbling through his fears as he confronted the reality that perhaps growth involved risking the very essence he sought to protect. I wouldn't discourage you from hearing them out, she said slowly, weighing her words. But understand that trust must be earned, not given. If you decide to fight for your vision, everyone involved must share that passion. Her eyes held a deep-seated loyalty he could not deny. Passion isn't enough if you can't back it up with strategy, Jack said, echoing Turner's earlier sentiment. This was the challenge of his life, the essential balance. I need to embrace the uncertainty and either evolve or cease to exist. In that moment of clarity, he felt a shift. It wasn't only about preservation anymore, it was about evolution, a chance to reimagine what he had grown to love deeply. Yet, the prospect of change hovered tantalizingly out of reach, a shadow lurking beyond his willingness to act. I need to convene the team, gather feedback, he decided aloud. Jack's commitment to gathering his inner circle was a necessity now more than ever. Even as he ushered the notion of change into his consciousness, he felt empowered to navigate conflicts awaiting him. As he resolved to pivot toward a promising horizon, he sensed Rebecca's fleeting smile return. That's a step forward. Just don't forget your instincts matter as much as any advisory board. Instincts and strategy, he replied, his determination knitting together. Remember, Jack, the diner has heart, but that heart needs a clear vision to keep beating. Just then, the bell above the door jingled, announcing another patron. Outside, life continued unfazed, relentless, and illuminated by the golden glow of opportunity. Yet deep within the folds of Jack's mind, doubt clawed back, questioning whether he could truly steer this ship. He had a plan, yet the realities of investment, change, and conflicts lurking within the team remained. How would he address fears amidst the promise of collaboration? Jack squared his shoulders, readying himself for the journey ahead. The moment Rebecca stood and turned to leave, her parting words resonated like a mantra: be prepared to fight for your heart's vision, but don't lose yourself in the process. Now, he needed clarity. What did he truly want, not just for the diner, but for himself? The threshold of truth blurred at the edges, waiting for him to step through. Jack. Her voice cut through his reverie. You'll need to confront John Turner soon. Just remember, not all allies are truly on your side. As uncertainty settled around him once more, Jack knew the stakes were rising exponentially. The impending confrontation loomed larger than the opening in the door to transformation he had been cautiously exploring. Would he harness support from this investment, or would the weight of disparate intentions anchor him down? Jack searched through the notes on his phone, trying to glean the essentials for his upcoming meeting with John Turner. Each bullet point felt like a thread connecting his vision for the diner with the world waiting outside its doors. He had spent the entire night drafting outlines. Strategy took shape as he paced the diner, mentally rehearsing the arguments he would present. Yet, with each passing hour, anxiety stirred within him, twisting his resolve like a coiled spring. He glanced around the diner, absorbing its familiar essence. The crackling sounds from the grill, the smell of brewed coffee, and the flickering neon sign outside that warmly beckoned to the city, it was everything he had fought for. This place was not just a job, it was a sanctuary of memories, hard-fought struggles, and the foundation of his identity. He could almost hear the echoes of laughter and comforting conversations that had filled every corner over the years, but change was looming, now more than ever. Jack stirred his coffee absent-mindedly, watching the faint swirl of cream. What if embracing this new opportunity transformed not only the diner but him as well? Could carving out a new path lead to his own professional evolution? Contemplating Rebecca's words as a guide, he recognized that trust would be crucial in this dynamic. He ordered himself to focus. How could he leverage John Turner's investment while ensuring his vision remained intact? Jack knew he needed allies, people who understood the diner's heartbeat, the soul that had beckoned them all. He pushed through the diner's front door, greeting the bustling day with determination. He invited Liz, his trusted chef, and Sam, his charismatic waiter, to gather at one of the booths for a brainstorming session. Their faces brightened when he shared news of the potential investment. Their energy surged the moment he emphasized how he believed it could help rejuvenate the diner without losing its essence. "Hold on, Jack," Liz cautioned, her brow furrowing as she crossed her arms. "You're not really considering letting some corporate suit change our recipes, are you?" Concern tinged her voice with agitation. "No, absolutely not," Jack responded firmly. "Think of the possibilities: new equipment, better ingredients, maybe even a revamp of the site. We can attract more customers while still honoring what we've built together." "But it's always a balancing act," Sam chimed in. "Once you take money, the stakes change. You know that, right?" A thick silence settled in the booth as Jack observed the two. Their skepticism ignited a flame of doubt inside him. He dug deep to articulate his vision more clearly, pulling from the shelves of his own agency. "I'm not discounting your concerns. I need to make transparent decisions from the start. The deal must represent not just growth but mutual respect. I want us all on board, every single step of the way." He locked eyes with Liz and Sam, a bubble of camaraderie slowly resurfacing. The confidence in his proposal joined the solid foundation banter they had shared countless times in the past. Would it bolster them to solidify their commitment to the diner? "Let us come up with what we want from this deal," Jack suggested, feeling a pulse of optimism. They tossed ideas around, the energy in the booth gradually shifting from apprehension to collective excitement. It felt as if they were rediscovering their purpose as essential components of this venture. Each voice carried weight and importance. As they finalized the goals, Jack felt a surge of clarity. His meetings with John Turner couldn't be about merely securing investment, they had to be about forging a partnership that honored the diner's history and aspirations. Redefining their mission progressively became his mantra. Compromise was not failure but an opening. But just as his confidence grew, a thought nagged at him: what if the alignment he craved was simply an illusion? Would Turner truly value their core, or did he merely see dollar signs? Jack's gaze wandered to the vibrant plant hanging in the corner, a symbol of growth, one that required nurturing and care. Suddenly, he felt the weight of the challenge before him transform into motivation instead of fear. How would he navigate these waters of negotiation, ensuring the heart of the diner beat steadily amidst influences that sought to reshape it entirely? As the meeting concluded, Jack made a mental note to prepare for the meeting with Turner. He needed to maintain clarity of purpose, fueled by passion and authenticity. With newfound resolve, he returned to the counter, ready to tackle whatever might come. But the looming confrontation stayed lodged in his mind like an echo, gnawing at the edges of his calm. Would he expose himself to a world that might ultimately threaten his vision, or would he emerge as the distinguished captain of this ship, steering it toward the horizon he had long envisioned. The doorbell jingled softly as a familiar face stepped in, the unmistakable silhouette of John Turner himself. A blend of anticipation and dread surged through Jack, electrifying the air around him. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Jack's heart raced as John Turner entered the diner, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the warm, homey atmosphere of the place he cherished. Turner scanned the room with a calculated indifference that only compounded Jack's anxiety. In that moment, Jack felt the weight of every decision he had been wrestling with. The bright future of the diner clashed with the fear of losing its essence. The jovial clatter of dishes and the low hum of conversation faded into a distant echo as he approached Turner. He needed to stay grounded, to focus on the vision he and his team had discussed. "Mr. Turner," Jack greeted, extending a hand, but it felt more like offering up a piece of his soul than a handshake. As Turner clasped his hand firmly, Jack took a moment to gauge the man's demeanor. Turner's demeanor was calculated, an aura of assertive confidence that almost intimidated Jack. "Let us take a seat," Turner suggested, motioning towards a booth in the far corner where the light streamed in, illuminating the shiny surface of the table. Jack followed, bracing himself for the conversation that could alter the trajectory of his beloved diner. "Nice place you have here," Turner began, eyes darting over the menu hanging on the wall. His tone was cordial but detached. "I can see why you're attached to it. But let us dive right in. What's your plan for the investment?" Jack inhaled deeply, grounding himself in the passion that had fueled his late-night strategizing. "I envision using the investment to upgrade our equipment and expand our menu, but I want to do it while maintaining the heart of the diner, the recipes and the ambience. We can innovate without losing our identity." Turner's eyebrows raised slightly, a sign of intrigue, but Jack quickly sensed the underlying skepticism. "That's all well and good," he replied, leaning back in the booth, "but innovation costs. You know what the market demands," he continued, his voice shifting to what felt like a more authoritative tone. "You'll have to adapt if you want to survive." Jack felt the pressure in that statement settle deep within him, yet he gathered resolve. "I understand that adaptation is necessary, but I won't compromise our foundation for profit. This place means too much to the community. It's about connection and quality over sheer numbers." Turner narrowed his eyes, and Jack could sense the shift. This wasn't just business for him, it was a game. "You talk a big game, Jack," he replied, his voice dripping with both charm and condescension. "But what happens when the expenses rise, and the numbers don't add up? Would you still hold firm if push came to shove?" Sweat trickled down Jack's spine as Turner's question pierced through his bravado, revealing the uncertainty lingering in the back of his mind. Would he be strong enough to stand his ground when the tides turned against him? He clenched his fists under the table, feeling the rough edges of what might be his final stand. "Let us set the stakes, then," Jack said, forcing confidence to roll off his tongue. "I want a deal that ensures not just financial growth but a partnership. If I can't protect what we've built, I won't sign." Turner assessed him, his gaze sharp, and for a breathless moment, the air hung heavy with tension. "You drive a hard bargain, Jack. But remember, control holds the real power in a partnership, and it's rare for the little guy to stay in the driver's seat." Jack's heart raced, realizing not only the challenge he faced but also the stakes of losing everything he held dear. A wave of determination washed over him. He wouldn't let fear win, he would find a way to steer the diner's legacy without succumbing to corporate greed. "Then let us talk control," Jack replied, a newfound strength accompanying the words. "I want a clause that guarantees our recipes and core identity remain untouchable. If that's not acceptable, perhaps we should rethink this partnership." The silence that followed was thick, charged with a potential that could either fuel Jack's ambitions or shatter his dreams. What if his uncompromising stand severed the only lifeline that could save the diner? Jack leaned forward, his eyes locked onto Turner's. "If this is about building something together, we need trust. If it's just about profit, then I'll walk away." Turner regarded him, a slight grin playing at the corners of his mouth. "Interesting. I appreciate your tenacity. Let us see how this conversation unfolds. But remember, Jack, I don't just play games, I win them. As Jack sat back, he deflected the tension curling around him and prepared for battle. His path forward was precarious had he just thrown down the gauntlet or sealed his own fate. With each passing second of Turner's deliberation, Jack wrestled with a burning question: would he be able to preserve the soul of the diner, or was this the moment he'd lose himself in the corporate machine? As the minutes ticked away in tense silence, the weight of the decision felt palpable. The real fight was just beginning, and the taste of consequence lingered in the air, leaving Jack anxious for what would come next. The silence stretched, thick like the creeping fog of uncertainty that enveloped Jack's mind. Each tick of the diner's clock echoed the relentless beating of his heart, amplifying his trepidation. He had laid down the gauntlet, but now he had to brace himself for the counterstrike. Turner's calculated gaze fixed on Jack, as if appraising not just his words but the very essence of his resolve. "Trust is a delicate thing," he replied, breaking the silence, his voice smooth like silk but laced with danger. "How can I trust a man who isn't ready to adapt to the harsh realities of business?" Jack's throat constricted, an instinctive reaction to the challenge. "Because I'm here, standing firm on my principles." He fought to keep his voice steady. This moment required clarity, not just bravado. "I know this diner inside and out. It's part of my life and I refuse to turn it into something it isn't." Turner leaned back, fingers steepled, a predator poised to pounce. "You say you're committed to what this diner represents, but then why are you entertaining my offer in the first place? Is this about survival, or are you genuinely committed to this soul you speak of?" A wave of frustration surged through Jack, yet he recognized it as an opportunity to explore his own motivations. Turner was right, he wouldn't be sitting across from this man if he didn't feel an element of desperation. Pausing, Jack took a breath, centering his thoughts on what mattered most. "This isn't just a business transaction for me, it's about legacy. It's about creating a space where people feel at home." "Admirable sentiment, Jack," Turner replied, his tone shifting from skepticism to mild amusement, "but sentiment doesn't pay the bills." This was the turning point. Jack had to unearth the deeper layers of his own resolve. Did he truly believe in the path he was choosing, or was he simply fearfully clinging to the familiar? Determined to banish the flickers of doubt, Jack chose transparency over bravado. "You're right, I need money to keep the diner running. But I also know that without heart, no amount of investment will save us. I won't sacrifice who we are just to pad a balance sheet." A shadow of respect crossed Turner's features, but it was fleeting, replaced by the relentless predator once more. "This isn't a charity, Jack," he cautioned. "If you want to win here, you'll have to draw a hard line. You'll face losses, disappointments. Adjustment is essential. Do you have the guts to navigate that?" Jack's answer formed within him like a bright flame. "I've built this diner with sweat and heart, and I've watched it become a sanctuary for others. Losing that would mean losing myself. So yes, I have the guts not to adjust for the sake of it, but to preserve what matters most." Silence cloaked the booth again, punctuated only by the distant clatter of dishes. Jack could feel a tremor of vulnerability beneath his bravado, emotions churned beneath the surface. Would he be able to uphold his vision on the bleak days when the pressure mounted? And what of the promise he was making right now? Could he truly commit to a path that could lead to downfall? Turner's eyes glinted with intrigue, as if Jack had piqued his interest but remained uncertain about the ultimate outcome. "Cute speech, Jack," he said finally, the callous edge still present. "But we'll see just how committed you really are. Let us move to numbers and terms. You're either going to step up or be swept away." Jack felt a shudder of realization. This was a dance of wills, and anyone could stumble. He had taken a stand, but the moment of truth loomed. What concessions would he be willing to make? With every calculation he would have to navigate, doubts nipped at his ambition like hungry wolves. Determined not to allow fear to dictate his actions, Jack squared his shoulders. "I'm willing to negotiate, but understand this, my vision doesn't bend easily. If this is to be a partnership based on trust, then it's a partnership that also respects the heartbeat of this diner. As he spoke, an inkling of resolve flared brightly in Jack's chest. But beneath the surface, a darker question stirred: would he be tested beyond what he thought he could endure? The stakes were rising, the outcome hanging precariously in the balance. That it was clear now, the negotiations ahead could strengthen or shatter everything he had built. As Turner leaned forward, preparing to outline the terms, Jack's pulse quickened. He knew the paths diverged at this crossroads. What awaited him on the other side, success or loss, depended on the next few moments of calculated conversation. With the air thick with unspoken threats and opportunities, he prepared to meet whatever lay ahead, a reckoning echoing in his mind. Could he truly protect what he had come to love, or would it crumble in the fierce grip of corporate ambition? As Turner straightened his tie and placed a sleek black binder on the table, an all too familiar knot tightened in Jack's stomach. His resolve wavered for a fleeting moment as he stared down at the impeccably organized pages inside, each one a manifestation of Turner's calculated strategy. Jack had just articulated his commitment to the diner, but could he stand firm against what was now unfolding? The ticking clock felt like an unseen audience, urging him to perform. Let's cut to the chase, Turner began, opening the binder with a flourish, his fingers moving with precision. I'm willing to offer you a generous investment to revamp your operations, modernize the diner, make it appealing to a wider demographic. Think of the potential revenue. Jack clenched his fists under the table, aware of the sense of dread clawing at him. You mean strip away what makes it special, he retorted, his voice sharper than intended. He could feel the anger coursing through him. It ignited a fierce sense of protectiveness over the space he had nurtured for years. Turner's expression remained dispassionate. He simply retrieved a glossy projection of a nearby competitor who had thrived after a similar overhaul. This isn't about devaluing your vision, Jack. It's about evolution. You have the chance to increase your profitability without sacrificing your brand. Jack forced himself to think beyond the moment. He envisioned the diners his customers who relied on the familiar ambience, the warmth of shared meals. The thought of untangling their trust filled him with dread. I can't compromise what this place means to me, or to them, he said quietly, yet firmly. Then what's your alternative plan? Turner leaned back again, gauging Jack's response, as if invigorated by the challenge. You're hanging on to a dream that could become a nightmare without financial backing. Isn't it time to confront the reality? The challenge made Jack's heart race. If he gave in, would he still be himself, or would he dissipate into the very corporate machine he despised? He was at a pivotal crossroads, each option capable of reshaping not just his diner but who he was as a person. That he took a deep breath, allowing himself a moment to reflect on the subconscious rules he had always followed: passion over profit, integrity over gain. Was he prepared to battle through an identity crisis? Money can't buy loyalty, Turner. It can't buy soul. Turner's lips twitched into a smirk, dismissing Jack's emotional appeal. And what about your mounting debts? That's the language the marketplace understands. You either adapt or risk losing everything. Life favors the bold. Jack's internal conflict intensified. He could feel the pressure mounting. He needed a plan that would allow him to thrive without losing his essence. Suddenly, an idea struck him. What if I could create a hybrid approach? He proposed, his voice steadying. A modern twist on a classic diner, without losing its charm. Turner raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Go on. What if we elevate the diner experience with local ingredients and seasonal menus while keeping the heart of diner comfort food intact? We attract new customers through social media engagement and thematic nights that celebrate the diner's history. Jack felt a surge of empowerment. He was offering a vision that harmonized both worlds. Interesting, Turner nodded, shifting his body forward, his demeanor shifting slightly. Now, you're speaking my language. But I need hard numbers, Jack. Prove it to me. Can you manage this without sacrificing profitability? Jack's heart raced, his mind quickly calculating the potential risks and benefits. He sensed a turning point but knew the commitment would be enormous. Would the community respond positively? Could he handle the strain of innovation while protecting his base? "I can," he said with newfound determination, "but it will require your trust and support. We need to create a narrative that is authentic to the diner and engages our long-standing customers." A tense silence stretched between them. Jack's pulse throbbed in his ears. This was the edge of something significant, an opportunity not just to redefine his business, but also to redefine himself. "And if you fail?" Turner's tone had turned serious, each word loaded with implications. "I won tea," Jack replied, the certainty in his voice surprising even him. As Turner scribbled notes, Jack felt an invisible weight lift slightly. Here was a chance not just to safeguard what he loved, but to grow upon it. And yet, lurking beneath that exhilaration was a nagging fear. The stakes had never been higher, and suddenly failure loomed larger than ever. "Then let us see the plan on paper," Turner decided, closing the binder with a purposeful snap. With the weight of the moment ahead and reality crashing down, Jack knew he was stepping into a labyrinth of potential triumph and disaster. Could he navigate both his vision and Turner's expectations without losing himself? He had crossed the threshold, but what awaited him on the other side? Would he emerge victorious, or would he be drawn deeper into the corporate world, stripped of his identity? As the thought lingered ominously in his mind, he understood well, this was just the beginning of a negotiation far more complex than he had ever anticipated. Jack Thompson stood confidently behind the counter of his diner, the familiar scent of coffee filling the air. Days turned into weeks as he strategically maneuvered through the negotiations with John Turner. The once intimidating figure now represented both an opportunity for growth and a reminder of the fine balance between progress and compromise. Each passing day, Jack felt a resonance within him, the diner's heartbeat synchronized with his own, alive, vibrant, and steadfast. Reflecting on his purpose and values, Jack had decisively committed to a hybrid vision for the diner. He envisioned local ingredients married with beloved classic recipes, promotional themes that celebrated the diner's history, and workshops that fostered community dialogue and engagement. Slowly, Jack transformed his anxiety into action by implementing innovative menu items and hosting community nights that invited patrons to share their stories alongside their meals. It was a challenging but exhilarating journey. Jack methodically shared his evolving vision with Rebecca, Liz, and Sam, welcoming their input while guarding the essence of what made the diner special. Together, they crafted an event to commemorate the diner's legacy, a nostalgic evening of storytelling blended with the sounds of live music, where past and present collided in a tapestry woven with memories and dreams. Before the event, Jack sat alone in the diner, the warmth of the establishment enveloping him like a familiar embrace. He gazed at the colorful murals, painted by the artists who had ignited his initial spark of creativity and hope. He smiled at the thought of how far he had come. He was no longer merely a man fighting against loss but instead, an innovator navigating the intersection of tradition and evolution. A deep sense of satisfaction nestled within him. He was reclaiming his narrative. The fateful night arrived, and laughter echoed within the diner as patrons filled every booth, their hearts buoyed by the spirit of community. Jack saw familiar faces alongside newcomers. They were all part of this rich tapestry, and he had brought them together through his relentless passion for the diner. As he mingled with guests, sharing stories and witnessing the joy that enveloped the event, Jack felt his confidence flourish. He was no longer just a caretaker of the diner, he was its steward, a guardian of its legacy. Meanwhile, the interaction with John Turner transformed dramatically. Initially driven by numbers and projections, Turner had come to appreciate the diner's heart. Jack's unwavering commitment to legacy and community drew admiration. In their most recent meeting, Jack presented data reflecting the success of the promotional ideas, showcasing increased foot traffic and online engagement. Turner's skepticism began to give way to respect. As Turner shifted from corporate investor to supportive ally, both men reached a groundbreaking understanding. They aligned on a plan to modernize the diner while ensuring the preservation of its soul. "Jack," Turner stated while shaking his hand after an agreement was reached, "you've shown me this truly isn't just a business, it's a movement." With that, Jack felt a surge of validation. He was finally recognized as the competent leader he strived to be, not just in the kitchen but in the community. The weight of legacy transformed into an emblem of hope. and the realization that he could balance innovation with tradition settled in his heart. Weeks turned into months, and as Jack surveyed the diner from behind the counter, it sparkled with vibrant life. The symphony of laughter and conversations enveloped him with profound gratitude. He had transformed his struggle into purpose, facing down the fears that once threatened to unravel him. Reflecting on his journey, Jack noticed a stark contrast. The timid man suffering from a dislocated sense of identity had morphed into a confident entrepreneur and community leader. Every achievement, every moment of hesitation, had ultimately forged the resilient person he had become. And as he delivered a fresh round of coffees to his customers, Jack no longer felt just like a man serving food. He felt a renewed kinship with each individual who crossed the threshold of the diner. He had married his past with his present. The broken arm that once held him back was now a powerful metaphor for his journey. Jack Thompson had fought for his family's legacy, preserved a cherished establishment, and in doing so, had rebuilt himself with a robust understanding of leadership, empathy, and community. Now, he stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. If you resonated with this story of personal triumph and transformation, you need to subscribe now to the channel for more exclusive emotional journeys like this one. Leave a like now to boost the algorithm and support stories that inspire. Comment below your reactions and theories about Jack's incredible journey. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to be reminded of the power of resilience and growth. Don't wait even one more second to spread the positive message.